Hi, I'm Steve Hoffman. Thanks for joining us again. Today I'd like to talk about the importance of quietness in your life, a meditative mind, a place where you let go of the noise and chatter that's around us everywhere. All the entertainment, the cell phones, and all that stuff. Just quieting the mind. I think about a time recently, it was almost a year ago, when I was riding in a car on a 2-hour trip to an antique show with my designer. We were going along in the car. We were listening to music, and it was music of the 70s. And I started to talk about Chicago, particularly Terry Kath of Chicago. And I started to tell Jackie the story of how Terry Kath started it all, was considered the greatest guitar player ever. I told more history of Terry's life and how his life tragically ended 6 or 7 years after leaving the band. He killed himself. It was either Russian roulette or he was cleaning a gun, but Terry was dead, and his music lived on. We enjoyed the antique show in the sweltering heat. At about 3 o'clock, I was ready to call it a day. And for some reason, I was drawn to a certain dresser. It was an Art Deco dresser. I didn't need a dresser, and I walked off the path, and I looked at the dresser and said, the people said, "Can I help you with anything?" And I said, "No, I'm just looking, and I am actually enjoying the breeze." They said, "Well, take your time, and if we can help you with anything." And at that moment, a Chicago song went on. And I said, "Oh, and the music also, I like the concert." They said, "Have you been to a Chicago concert?" I said, "Yes, 8 times. And they said, "We've been to 29 Chicago concerts because we're from that area." I said, 29 concert has to be the record. And the man said, "Well, Terry Kath sat ahead of me in homeroom." I told him the story, and Jackie nearly fell over, that we were talking about Terry Kath 6 hours before. I never talk about Terry Kath. And here I am, 300 plus miles away from his hometown, and I'm talking to the man who sat behind him in homeroom. And that's the benefit of a quiet mind. One of the most powerful speakers that I ever heard, I didn't enjoy at the time. I listened to him, and he was very quiet. He didn't offer a lot of information. In fact, he said few words with broken English. Because of that, I believe I was really able to hear his thoughtful voice. That speaker I heard over 10 years ago, and it's never left me. I think about his voice and what he said and the way he said it. His speech, much like many speakers today, wasn't full of information. It was filled with the Spirit, and it was inspiration, in spirit. Never forgot his voice, never forgot the way he was. And I took a part of that with me to an event that I really didn't even care for at the time. In our Western world, there's so much in the presentation, the delivery, the packaging, the marketing, how we can present ourselves in just a very, very favorable light, how we can be flawless in our presentation. I've heard a lot of presentations, and I've heard things that are presented in a flawless manner, where the information is given to you. In fact, a real blueprint for the way it's given is, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you, and then I'm going to tell you some stories, and then I'm going to tell you what I just told you. Follow me on that? No, I really don't. I don't want to follow you on that. I want to conjure up things in my mind that become readily apparent to me when I'm quiet. Yogis get this at the mat when they're doing their stretches and triangles and downward dogs. Their mind becomes quiet. Runners, it's called a runner's high. Golfers, when they can quiet their mind, they can overcome the little white ball and getting it in the hole. I'm a golfer, and when the mind is noisy, it's very, very noisy. But when it's quiet, it's so beautiful. And that's the serenity we look for in golf. I've become a swimmer, and I've been doing this for over a year and a half. In the year and a half that I've been a swimmer, many things have happened. I started in the pool for 20 minutes. 20 minutes that I really didn't look forward to. There's a big clock up on the wall, and I would do a series of strokes there and back. I would change the formation and how I swam, but I would always be looking at the clock. It was painful for me, but it was a discipline that I wanted to do. I would think about excuses why I wouldn't want to swim. Why is that? Because I had to be in the company of my mind and all the racing and all the chatter that was going into my mind. After 6 months of doing this, I raised it to about a half an hour. And still, I would be in the pool and the thoughts would race through my head, but I would quiet them. To be in a meditative state while you're swimming is just pure bliss. Now I swim for 45 minutes, and the norm is the quiet mind. the mind where everything is possible. You're not reaching, you're not striving, you're not thinking of getting ahead. You're just quiet. And from there, all the miracles come to be. I don't know what my life would be like without swimming. To have that meditative state. On the website, I tell a lot of stories. I've got a lot of stories to tell. I've got a lot of stories to write. Then it becomes a pressure to get them in for Sunday. To have the music with them that speaks to my soul. To have the images that only enhance the story. Some of the work I really love, and some of it I like. But I look at it as a cathartic way to just speak my message. But really, that's the beginning. That's the appetizer. That's the meal. This is the dessert. The meditation. The quiet mind. It's not so important about what I say. It's about the pause between the words. And if my voice resonates with you, as someone who wants to share the joy of being quiet, of being still, Psalm 23, lead me beside quiet waters. The quietness is where the creativity comes from. It's where the music is written. It's where the great things are dreamed of. I believe Walt Disney had a quiet mind where he would envision things. But that's only in the silence. Too much we look at the silence as if it's awkward, as if we're supposed to be filling in the space. Quietness and kindness really transcends the type A, pushy salesman, whether it be cars, ideas, religions. All true religions should lead you to a place of stillness and quietness. God's one and only voice is silence. And if you can bring a meditative practice to your life, I believe big miracles will occur for you. One of my favorite stories that I wrote about was Sir Paul McCartney. In the writing Let It Be, the song that he dreamt of in the middle of the night, he woke up and he penned this classic tune. Let it be. Paul lost his mother, Mary, as a young boy, 16 years old. His aunt came and she said, "Your mom is very sick and she's going to be away from you for a while." And Paul's dad came when his mom had passed and said, "Your mom passed away." And that was all that was ever said of it. Paul went many years where he just wasn't right with that, and he couldn't find peace in his mom's passing, but in the night, it came to him and he wrote a song. And after that song, it's never been the same between his lack of acceptance and his mom's death. In an interview, Paul said he was in complete acceptance of it after that point. That is something that I wrote about and something that I'm very proud of to have understood that story of how Paul transcended such a difficult situation. The quiet mind. When my dad had a stroke, much of his family flew to Florida the same day. I went down to see my dad in a very critical state. We met with the neurosurgeons, and they said, "He'll never talk again. People don't make recoveries from strokes this severe." Everyone tried to talk to him, but my dad was not responsive. I went to my dad. I walked up to his bed and began talking in a very calm, kind, meditative voice. And I just reiterated that it was okay. If he chose to live, we were all there for him and supportive, and would be there for him when he came back, welcoming him. If he chose to let go, that was okay too. And I started talking to him about a picture of heaven and what I believed heaven would be like for him. My dad started talking to me about heaven. It was where his mind wanted to go. We had a wonderful conversation. And went as a family and had lunch. And when we came back, my dad said, "Where's Stephen? I'd like to talk to Stephen." Because that's where his mind was. It's something, when you have a stroke, it just slows everything down. It slows the responses, the quickness of wit. Everything is slow, slow. Words are chosen carefully. But in the book that I read about stroke victims, they're very, very aware of everything that's going on around them. In fact, there's a heightened awareness. An awareness like they never had in their busy world. It's a quietness. It's a time of reflection. It's like there's a sixth sense that comes to be. That was the state that my dad was in. And for the next 18 months, when he would speak, he chose his words quite carefully. Meditation is about breathing. The first thing the yogi does is they say, take the deep breath. The breath from deep, not the shallow breath that we're used to taking in our hurried life, but a deep, reflective breath. Big inhale, slow exhale. From that, there's a higher consciousness. In this short life that we have, I think the main thing is to have the stronger connection with God. And I just don't think that comes from being told what to do and how to be with the rules and how the rules determine our action. I think it's way more than that. I think it's to live in spirit and not be caught up in all the petty arguments about why I'm right and you're wrong. Anything that excludes others, I don't believe is from God. God is about being in harmony with the world the way it is. Not a world that we want to tell others their way to be, with our way being right and their way being wrong. It's about a kinder, more compassionate, loving world. A world where we follow the golden rule, doing unto others as we would want them to have done to us. Living at a place of peace with everyone. More acceptance with the way it is, not the way we think it should be. And live our lives from that point. From a quiet point, non-judgmental, being as much in harmony with the world as we can be. I want to thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing this series. Remember, meditate, be quiet, and dream. Thank you very much.